Hey everybody out there, you're tuned into 91.8 The Fan. I am not Kana, I am in fact Christmas, and I have with me a very special guest. Would you like to introduce yourself to the masses out there?
Hi, I'm Zach Hanks, voice actor,
Voice actor.
and that's me.
And you're not just a voice actor, you're also a voice director, aren't you?
That is true. I'd say probably about a fourth of the work that I do is voice directing and casting, exclusively for video games, and the rest of my work is mostly voice acting for commercials, mostly a lot of video games, and some original animation here and there.
And which really came first, the acting or the directing?
It's funny. The acting came first, but even before that, I always tell people that my foundation isn't really as an actor, especially since I work in video games. My foundation is as a gamer. And that's how I got kind of connected to all the culture, kind of the gaming culture and both video gaming and tabletop gaming, so board games, role-playing games. I actually was playing Dungeons & Dragons with my friends that I first started creating voices for characters, for monsters, stuff like that. And then from there, I found my way into acting in college, doing Shakespeare and doing undergraduate plays. Came out to LA for a few years and then went back east, got my MFA, came back out to LA, and not long after returning to Los Angeles, I found myself working for a voiceover production company that works on games, directing and casting. And I thought, oh, God, finally, something I can do where I can use my skills, use my interests, and I don't have to be a freaking actor anymore, because being an actor is hard. It is, it's really hard. But then that didn't stick. And I ended up going freelance and finding my way back into acting by way of voiceover, and it has been a charmed life ever since. I'll tell you, working as a voice actor is a pretty glorious thing. It is. I've heard it said voice acting is the second best job in Los Angeles. The best job is celebrity, but voice acting is a close second. It's pretty great.
And I hear that's a pretty common background. A lot of people get started in theater and then they sort of move up because for one reason or another they just sort of find their way into voice acting.
Yeah, I think with regard to character voice acting, like animation and video games and anime, the skills that one learns on the stage transfer pretty directly. I think one can learn how to be a competent television actor or a competent film actor without having worked in theater. But most of the character voice actors I've met, with very few exceptions, have strong stage backgrounds or stage acting training. Especially, I guess the way I would describe it is film actors are taught to play the scene mostly behind their eyes and not so much with how they deliver the lines. Theater actors, it's the other way. The audience is so far from the actor that they can't, that if the actor plays it really, really subtle and is kind of playing the scene with their eyes, so to speak, the audience is going to miss the whole thing. So much of it, so much of the performance in theater is in the voice and in the line deliveries, and it's those skills that I think are directly applicable to video game and animation and anime voiceover.
Definitely. And for you who do both acting and directing, would you say that doing both sort of helps you with doing the other?
Yeah, I'd say so. I'd say working on both sides of the glass, as they say, working, both in the booth and in the control room, I think it gives me a pretty well-rounded perspective, at least with regard to video games as a genre, but also with regard to the audition process. I tell people, and I teach video game voice acting as well, and I tell my students, if you want to learn how to audition, the best way is not to audition. The best way is to work in casting for a little while, because you start to get a sense of what the casting director needs, you relate to them, and instead of coming in, a ball of nerves and a ball of need, you come in knowing that the casting director wants nothing more than for you to succeed, and they're your biggest cheerleader. So instead of coming in with this sort of subtle adversarial thing, like the casting director is someone you have to win over or cajole or manipulate or conquer, the casting director becomes your ally. auditions become friendly turf and very comfortable. So that's something that I think really transfers. And also being an actor, having an acting background as a director, I think gives me a lot of empathy for actors. I tend to be kind of an actor advocate. I'm on a couple of different union committees for voiceover. I'm going to be participating in doing some organizing, and that's, it helps me be a compassionate director, and also it helps me communicate better with actors, because it helps me to understand the language they speak. I can tell someone you need in this scene or in this line, you need to seduce, you need to cajole, you need to dominate, you need to manipulate, rather than telling them that the scene is right now coming across very green and it needs to be more blue. Which is the kind of stuff you get from directors that think visually and really don't know how to speak to actors.
Right, but for you who've seen both sides of the coin, you can sort of understand. Have you ever had a moment where you go, oh, that's what they meant when they wanted me to do this?
Yeah, quite often actually. I think a good actor that knows how to take direction has to be a competent translator. One can't expect the director always to speak fluent actor. Actors often want to work or think in terms of emotion, anger, sadness, happiness, whatever. But that's actually not the best way to work. And I think the best actors work in terms of action. They think in verbs. In this moment, I need to, let's see, for example, in this moment, I need to crush my scene partner, or I need to win them over, or I need to make them laugh, or I need to make them pity me. It's something that I'm actively doing to another person. Whereas, where was I going with this? I forgot where I was going with it. But anyway, that's how. I know where I was going with this. So my point is, a good actor can take whatever a director gives them and translate it into action, and say, "Oh, I see. What you want me to do is manipulate him. Oh, I see. What you want me to do is to dominate this person, or to cajole, or seduce this person." And it takes some practice, but after a while it starts to come pretty naturally.
And I think what a lot of fans don't really recognize is that when something is either good or bad, it's not solely on the actor. It's the entire production team, the actor, the director, the producer, all of that stuff.
Oh, there's so many factors that go into a performance that have absolutely nothing to do with the actor whatsoever. Occasionally you get a situation where, you've got the writer who's contributing the words. You've got the director who is shaping the scene. Sometimes the actor is getting direction from multiple sides, and sometimes a director will inadvertently give someone conflicting direction. And some actors will do their best to try to play it. But, I think we've heard in our, I think it was Obama that made the comment about lipstick on a pig, that euphemism, and sometimes when the writing's not so good, there's only so much that you as an actor can do with it, or that the director can do with it. And sometimes the writing is brilliant. Sometimes it is the actor's fault, who makes a bad choice or misinterprets a line. But performance is a communal art form. It is a group art form. There's no one person that's doing all the work. It's the synergy of several different artists bringing their work together to try to create something excellent. But the actor is just like in a band, the actor is definitely the front man. The actor is the person who gets seen and gets heard, or in our case, exclusively gets heard.
Right. But, it's just that as someone who's been a part of this type of niche genre for as long as I have, it just sort of bugs me whenever people complain about something just because of the actor.
I think people like to point fingers. It's why gossip magazines and tabloids are so popular. and everybody's a critic. Ernest Hemingway said about critics, and it's one of my favorite quotes, and I may be butchering it, but I'm going to do my best. A critic is a person who watches the battle from a high place and then comes down and shoots the survivors.
That sounds about right, yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to really be a good critic if you've never really been in the fight.
Yeah.
And that is to say, it's hard to be a judge of what good acting is unless you've been an actor yourself, or unless you've performed yourself. Truth be told, one of the things I always tell my students is whether I like their performance or not, I always tell them they gave a great performance. And the reason for that is 99% of performing is getting up there, hitting your mark, and saying your line on time. That's most of your responsibility. And it takes a lot of guts. There's a lot of people for whom performing or speaking in front of people is more horrifying than the idea of death. People would rather die than perform. So it takes a great deal of courage, and I applaud people that have the guts to go do it. It's always easy to sit on the sidelines and throw jabs, like the two old men in the balcony in the Muppet Show.
Right. I know their names.
It's something in Waldorf.
Yeah.
Get the bear off the stage.
We all know them. We just we'll look them up during the break, and we'll come back and find them.
All right,
but before we go to break, do you have any tips for anybody who's maybe looking to start jumping into this really fun type of work?
Yeah, train, study. There's no such thing as a natural. Even people that say they've never taken a class or they've never trained, they've still gotten an enormous amount of experience. So no one can jump into this by winging it. Look for a class. Look for voiceover agencies, talent agencies. Call them and say, you're interested in the biz. Where do I start? And they might be able to point you to a class. And this is assuming you don't live in an industry town. If you live in an industry town like Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, you're going to have tons and tons of opportunities to study, to train, to get represented, to get work. But if you're interested in voiceover as a career, the place to begin is to study. Find a good coach, find someone who's got what you want, and find out how you can get it.
Definitely. And on that note, and a little help from our live chat here, it is Statler and Waldorf.
Statler and Waldorf. Thank you.
Yes, we're going to take a quick musical break, but don't go anywhere because my special guest and I will still be here when we get back. So keep it tuned to your favorite station. Everything you want and nothing you don't.
This is a public service announcement. It has recently come to our attention that not wearing shirts causes Sassenach cancer, double herpes, and super diabetes. To prevent these made-up illnesses, 918 The Fan is distributing protective clothing specifically designed to protect you from hazardous materials through a patented process that we won't explain because you'll probably just be too stupid to understand there's totally not fake or made-up science. To get your protective garments, simply head over to 918thefan.com and click on the apparel button under store. Remember, only 918 The Fan's protective shirts are 100% effective in protecting you from the radiation given off by death crystals and dysentery lasers. Don't settle for cheap imitations. It could cost you your life.
Hey everybody out there, I am still here and I still have with me my very special guest. Would you like to give us a sign of life? Because sometimes they're not always here when I say that they're here.
Hey guys, Zach here.
Oh, good. I think it was maybe the last one I did by myself. It was the first time we went on air. I'm like, hey, here I am. Here's my special guest. And we had gotten disconnected right as I had said that.
And silence, total silence. Actually, I'm going to give you a little radio silence for just 1 second. I've got to. I'm calling you guys from my office, and I just realized I have the windows open, and we have a tree right outside the office where the crows like to roost, which makes home recording an absolute nightmare.
Those crows.
I know they're pretty noisy. But let me just close my window real quick. I'll be right back.
Sure thing. I will stall for time.
You're doing a great job.
I know. I've had lots of practice.
All right, there we go. That's a lot better.
Isn't live radio fun? I love live radio.
It is. You never know what's going to happen. You never know what breed of bird is going to perch outside your microphone.
Exactly. It's usually crow, but sometimes they mix it up.
Oh boy, and they are loud too. Anyway,
Yes, as we were talking a bit behind the scenes, where no one else can hear us, but I bet they'd like to, we were talking a little bit some about the more specific things that you've done recently. Could you tell us a little more about that?
yeah, sure. I've just recently found my way into original animation. I've had 2 episodes of the Clone Wars air fairly recently. I think it was a couple months ago. I was in the season ender of the last season playing Garnak, who is Trandoshan. That's what he is. He's a Trandoshan chief. And in the episode, there's several Jedi Padawans that are fighting for their lives, and these Trandoshans, who if you don't know what the Trandoshans are, if you remember The Empire Strikes Back, you see one of them in a very brief scene where Darth Vader is speaking to a lineup of bounty hunters, including Boba Fett, and giving them basically their orders. And one of them is this kind of khaki-colored or beige-colored lizard with really, really long, like down past his knees, arms, and that's Bosk. And Bosk is a Trandoshan. So these guys basically have this sort of hunting paradise, and they bring in Wookiees, they bring in young Jedi, and hunt them with laser rifles. And I was sort of the hunting pack leader, and I got a great fight with one of the main characters at the very end. So there's that. I'm in an upcoming episode of Squidbillies on Adult Swim on Cartoon Network, and an upcoming episode of Aqua Teen Hunger Force.
Ooh.
Can't give any details away about the episode, but it'll be pretty funny, as Aqua Teen usually is. So.
Yeah, I know Aqua Teen usually comes on around the same time that everybody's watching their late night anime, so hopefully some of our fans will be able to catch you on those.
Maybe. I wish I could give away details about the episode, so people will know which one to catch. But so I'm in that, and I'm a voice in several video games, some of which I think have recently been released, and some of them are coming up. I was in Dragon Age 2. Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Future Soldier, I think, is still in the works. Captain America Super Soldier, Star Wars: The Old Republic. I'm probably about 10 or so voices in that. Let's see. I'm sure that I'll be some kind of a red shirt or boring no-name pilot in the upcoming Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 game. And I've got several other titles that are sort of Japanese, kind of Japanese titles or Japanese anime style titles that are, unfortunately, I'm still under a non-disclosure agreement for those, so I can't give away the title or any information, because some of them are characters that I've played before, so it would be a spoiler if I gave out that info. But the anime style stuff that I've done in the past is, let's see, I was in Final Fantasy. I was Godot in Final Fantasy.
Yeah, it seems like just about everybody has had some sort of minor role in Final Fantasy 13, but you actually have a name for your voice.
Yeah, it was a pretty fun character too, and it was funny. For those of you who have played the game, Godot is this big, hulking, kind of testosterone-ridden brute, and he's kind of a joker. He likes to laugh, but he's this like big, muscular dude, and he's like 6'8" or something like that. And I was sure they'd want me to, kind of push my voice down a little bit, but they basically wanted me to use my regular voice, which I found really odd. But for whatever reason, I guess it worked. And he's a fun character. His relationship, playing opposite Snow, they've got some fun banter, and that's all I'm going to say about that for now. Final Fantasy, I worked on Operation Darkness, Persona 4, Spectral Force. I think Spectral Force 3, something like that. And I think a couple other sort of anime style games. Lost Planet I think is a Japanese port. Lost Planet 2. And studied with Crispin Freeman. I had actually directed ADR sessions, which is matching to picture and matching to mouth movement.
Right.
Long before I ever acted an ADR session. And then I had actually acted in several ADR sessions before I ever worked with Crispin. So the work with Crispin was actually, and I'm sure that anybody who knows anything about anime knows who Crispin Freeman is. He's a great dude.
Of course.
Incredibly knowledgeable. And his coaching was actually really, really valuable. It was nice to have some affirmation about how many balls you have to keep in the air when you're doing ADR. You've got to be acting. You've got to be matching the lip flap. You've got to be matching the timing, listening for the beeps. There's so many things that you have to be doing all at the same time. And the sad thing is that ADR work for anime is probably some of the lowest paid acting work you can get. And it's by far and away some of the most difficult.
Yeah, we've talked to Crispin Freeman a couple of times, as well as a bunch of other people who, dispel the rumor that anime voice acting is this wonderful gig. It's fun and everything, but it doesn't always pay as well as people think it does.
Oh, no. It's comparatively speaking, it's chump change compared to how much you'd get to work on a TV show or a video game. Working on a video game is chump change compared to what you'll get working on a TV show. Because games, you don't get residual payments. You don't get any kind of royalty or anything like that. You just do session fees. Anime, you do session fees, but at a fraction of what you get for a video game.
Right.
Which is a shame, but that's just kind of the way that the market worked. And so it really now is a career for people that are either breaking in or for people that just love the medium, and that's just part of what they do, and they just and they just dig it, and God love them for it.
Which I think is a testament to how much the dubbing industry has advanced in the past 10, 20 years. You find the same names, the same big names over and over again because they're still in it because they love doing what they do.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely not because it's something that's getting, the rent paid from month to month. It's part of the process is, it's like it's part of their income that comes from multiple streams. But I don't think there's anybody, and I could be wrong here. I'm not an anime, I don't really do a lot of anime. I do more anime style video games, than I've ever done anime. I've actually been thinking about breaking in just to kind of fill in the gaps when I have a free afternoon here and there, but but I don't do it regularly. But my assumption is, from what I know about the rates, I don't think anybody can really make a living as exclusively as an anime actor. You've got to have other income streams to support yourself, especially if you're Los Angeles based.
Definitely, which is why you hear a lot of anime voice actors sort of making their ways into video games, like Crispin and Steve Bloom and Kyle Hebert.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Steve Bloom is probably one of the most prolific video game voices out there, up there with Robin Atkin Downs and Jennifer Hale and Fred Tatasciore and that crew. And Crispin and Kyle have done more than their share as well. Very, very busy cats. And if I have my agents right, I think all three of them are actually represented by the same agent.
Ooh.
And this particular agent has got just a really, really talented stable of people, including Steve and Crispin.
Definitely. And going back a little bit to your deep voice that you showed off for us that you thought you were going to do for Godot, have you ever had any instances where you've had to do a deep or yelling voice like that and you've actually lost your voice?
I've never lost my voice, but I've really trashed it. I think the furthest extent of damage I've done has resulted in some hoarseness, loss of part of my range for like a day or two, and pain. I think that's probably the most common thing that I experience when I really work my voice on what I call a throat ripper, which is a video game that has a lot of screaming in it, like the Call of Duty games do. And I've worked on several of them. It hurts. It hurts. It gets to a point where it just plain hurts. And it's not easy work.
It hurts. It hurts about as much as the grenades that you're yelling about.
I don't know about that, but it definitely at the time I might imagine that it does. It can be pretty rough. But I have heard stories. I've heard stories about people blowing blood vessels in their throats. I've heard people. Yeah, I know that's a rough one. I've heard people losing their voice for weeks at a time, or having an ear, nose, and throat doctor tell them that they have to not speak for several weeks, which for a voice actor is absolutely crippling. Just as a regular person, try not speaking for a day. Now, as someone who makes their living speaking, not only can you not communicate with your loved ones without a pen and a pad of paper, but you can't order you can't order a sandwich at McDonald's, much less make a living. And it's not like a salaried position where you get sick days. When you're sick, you don't work, and that's how it goes. But I think some of the roughest sessions I've ever done have been for the roughest sessions I've ever done have been for Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, and World of Warcraft was really funny. It was probably only like a 45-minute session. I had very, very little dialogue, but I pushed so hard and I didn't warm up that I really trashed my voice. Red Orchestra, oh, that one was heinous. And Warhammer 40,000, Dawn of War 2 Retribution. I played a character, a troop type. It's a real-time strategy game, and a troop type called the Catechins. And the Catechins are like little Rambo troops. And the voice that they wanted was something a la Clint Eastwood when he was in Heartbreak Ridge. Ooh. So it is, oh yeah, it's a voice like this. And it's a real kind of throat cancer-y sort of voice. And so I had to yell doing this. And it was really brutal. It was really, really brutal. But that it comes with the territory. That's part of the job. It's like you don't get into NFL football, and think that you're not going to get injured. When you're playing in the majors, you assume you're going to be hobbling when you're in your 50s and 60s. I'm just lucky that I don't mind sounding like Tom Waits when I'm 50 years old. I think that would sound cool. I actually did when I did the Catechins voice. Someone. I was reading some of the boards, and someone posted that, oh, cool, they got Steve Bloom to do the Catechins. Which, on the one hand, I was furious because I worked so hard on it, but on the other hand, I was immensely flattered. You can compare me to Steve Bloom any day of the week. I'll take it. So.
Yeah, Steve really does have that distinctive voice where you go, oh, it's Steve Bloom. I can instantly recognize this voice.
I was actually in a session this morning, and they were editing some audio in the next room, and it was Steve.
Oh, man.
So as soon as you hear it, it just cuts right through. It just cuts right through, and you're like, there he is. Cowboy Bebop, there it is.
And yet I've been trying so hard to get in contact with him, but he is a very elusive man. It's funny. I love Steve. I have the hardest time getting together with him on a social level more than anything else. But he's a busy cat. He works a lot. And he keeps pretty busy. Yeah.
But incredibly nice guy. I'm sure that I'd be surprised if, given the time, if he wouldn't be interested in being a guest if his schedule allows. I think that's probably the hard part, because he's one of the nicest guys in the biz.
And that's one of the things we always try to observe very carefully is people's schedules, because, like you said, this isn't the sort of thing where you can just take a day off. This is your livelihood. Yeah, I
think it goes for any kind of freelancer, and being a voice actor, you are a freelancer, is that, you sort of have to be available all the time. Like, for example, I almost had a gig that conflicted with this interview, and I didn't hear about, and it did get canceled, but I didn't hear about the cancellation until about an hour ago. And they still hadn't gotten back to me about whether or not the gig was going to go. So, it means I have to kind of sit by the phone sometimes and wait. and keep my schedule wide open. Like for example, I may have absolutely no work lined up for next week, but I can't plan to go to the mountains for the week knowing that I have no work a week in advance, because that work could come up with 12 hours notice or less.
Definitely.
So.
And regardless of your busy or lack thereof work schedule, we're glad that you could take the time out to come and have a chat with us.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's a real pleasure. It's always fun to get to talk to and with the fans, because that's they're the ones that give us something to do. If it wasn't for them, I'd be flipping burgers.
Yeah, that doesn't sound very fun. I haven't had the honor of doing it myself, but it just doesn't seem very exciting.
I'll tell you this. For pay, it's not. For free in your backyard with a bunch of your friends sitting around the grill, it's the greatest thing in the world.
True.
So I guess it depends on your point of view. But as far as making a living, I'll take voiceover over just about anything else any day of the week.
Definitely. But I do believe we are nearing the end of our time together, sad as it may be. But before we let you go, we do have one final thing to ask you.
Absolutely.
We ask everybody who comes on our show if they'd be willing to participate in our 91.8 The Fan tradition.
And that is?
We just ask everybody if they'd be willing to say a radio bump for us.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
All right, good. Sometimes I always wonder if I'll get the one person who outright declines to, nope, not doing it. Never.
Well, if radio bumps were something that I did for a living, that might be another story, but I don't. I do games, so I'm happy to do it. What is it you want me to say?
We just asked everybody to say, hello, my name is, you insert your name, because we have had a wise guy, and that wise guy was Fred Tadshore.
Ah, of course it was. What did he say?
He said, my name is, I do this.
What a smart aleck. I love it. So just my name and this is 91.8 FM. Is that the plan?
It's my name is, you insert your name, I do this. You can be as general or specific as you like. And you're tuned into 91.8 The Fan.
91.8 The Fan. All right. I'd be happy to do it. You want me to go ahead and do it on the air right now?
Yeah, that's the final catch. We do it live on air just in case there are any bloopers, so everybody gets to hear them.
All right. Sounds great. Hi, this is Zach Hanks, voice actor, and you are listening to 91.8 The Fan.
Awesome. You got it all in one take.
I'm the one-take wonder, baby.
Exactly. We have had people miss up the numbers, all sorts of crazy bloopers have gone on, but not you.
I'm not surprised.
It's almost as if you're a professional or something.
It's almost as if I've done this before.
I know. It's like you talk for a living. Crazy idea, I know. But.
I know. Who would do such a thing?
But do you have any final words for any of the listeners out there?
Just thanks for listening. Keep watching. Keep on playing those games, and that's pretty much it. Oh, yeah, sure. If you want to follow me on Twitter, for those of you, if you have any, interest whatsoever in what it is that I do, you can find me at Zach Hanks. It's ZACHHANKS. I don't have a formal webpage, but you can always find me on IMDb. And I do moonlight around on Facebook from time to time. I'm not really hard to find. I don't use a lot of aliases. I tend to just use my own name. And that's pretty much it.
Well, all right. Very simple. You keep your name as your sort of way
That's my
to
call
find
sign, yeah.
Yeah. But it was a pleasure to get the chance to talk to you. And for anybody out there who missed any part of this interview, shame on you, but it will be up on our website in the next few days. So make sure that you keep it tuned to your favorite station, 91.8 The Fan. Everything you want and nothing you don't.